Hey, I'm Christina, welcome to The Void, a place where we celebrate outlaws, generally musical outlaws. But for this video tonight, I want to talk about another kind of outlaw who really comes from the same headspace as all of the interesting, adventurous, dangerous, raw, savage musicians that I featured on this channel. And that man is Anthony Bourdain, one of my biggest heroes, one of the only famous people who I've heard about dying who I genuinely sobbed over, because I think he made an enormous contribution to culture in so many ways, and I felt like he shared the values of so many of the artists and people I grew up with, and any kind of underground culture and activist culture, and just living outside the system. You know, I guess for me, Anthony Bourdain really embodied the whole think for yourself, question authority, and what comes along with that, which is this deep empathy and compassion. Because when you put human interests over the system or corporate interests, whatever you want to do, it becomes a more human thing. So if you're not familiar, you should be. He's a fairly omnipresent figure who produced an incredible amount of material and toured like a fucking rock star to make it. Anthony Bourdain grew up in New Jersey. And he had as he described them, Kennedy Democrat parents. So he grew up in, a bookish kind of a household. When he was a teenager, he fell in love with Hunter S. Thompson. And I think this is a really important point, because if you look at his work, it's classic Gonzo journalism. So the concept of Gonzo journalism, which is a really interesting one in the current climate we exist in, is you put yourself in the story, but it's about acknowledging your bias. When you actually put yourself in the story and acknowledge yourself as the thing in the story reporting on it, then it isn't one-sided or partisan or anything like that, because you're like, well, this is where I stand. Where Hunter generally stood was under the veil of about 12 tons of booze and drugs and this rapid fire delivery and this excitement, and you can, I don't know, you read Hunter S. Thompson and you get high, even if you don't do drugs. It's just exciting, because I had the same experience a few decades later. But I kind of feel like the really great thing about, sorry, this is, it's a bit risque, but I don't feel like wearing a bra. And Hunter S. Thompson would have liked it that way. The thing that, if you watch Parts Unknown and Anthony's television shows, it's classic Gonzo journalism. He's reporting on it. He says he's not a journalist, but he is. But he builds this whole story around it. So his storytelling journey happened between these two things. So got really into that, got really into punk rock. He kind of came of age in the 70s when the whole 60s dream was basically a burning ember. Got to see all the fucking amazing punk bands of the 1970s. I always say that you can just tell his whole ethos and the way he looked at the world was formed in this era under these bands. You can see in everything he does. This whole art above everything else. Don't take yourself too seriously. Take your fucking art seriously. Sometimes be silly. Take it seriously is sometimes being silly. Whatever. You know what the fuck is up. It's, he fucking has fun with it. So he became a chef. And, because he loved the outlaw life. I understand that. I started working at a recording studio when I was 20 years old. I wanted to be around those people forever. They're the best. See, I love them for making music. He loved them for making food and living like fucking rock stars, girls, parties, badness, So we spent a lot of time there. He's been really open about drugs and getting involved with drugs. And I think that's an important thing to be honest about. He was an exceptional writer, always. Legend has it, a great storyteller in the kitchen. But he wrote an article that he wanted to put in a little street paper called The Village Voice, and ended up getting submitted to the New Yorker. It became this enormous thing. He got a fucking book deal off it. The book was called Kitchen Confidential. I found when I was living with 5 Kiwi chefs in a really nice apartment that we had made disgusting with skateboard shit and girly mags, and I found it dog-eared under a pile of, I don't know, naked women. Who knows? They were animals. Chefs do not cook at home. They're animals, but they have a certain charm. And Anthony Bourdain kind of defined that charm. It's a fucking fantastic book. I was like, wow, this is great. So here he is. He's made this mad book. It's fucking amazing. Let's get excited. And these amazing producers, Lydia Tenaglia and I believe Chris Collins as well, they found him in a kitchen, said, dude, we want to put you on television. And, you know, Lydia and Chris, they're just legendary, man. Like 0.0 are one of the reasons why all of his television stuff is just exceptional. And they basically said, yep, you're going on TV. He's like, okay. And kind of did these things, started out doing cooking shows. And what was really interesting is he went from doing these cooking shows to Parts Unknown, which is like it's not a travel show and it's not a food show, even though it's all about traveling and eating food. It's about people, and it's about storytelling. It's Gonzo fucking journalism. It's loving filmmaking. It's, you know how like musicians, you can taste and feel the records they loved in their records, like the other video that I put out today about fan moments with great bands. You can tell how much he loves filmmaking. And yeah, the whole 0.0 team, I just want to shout them out because honestly, they made some of the most exceptional fucking television of the last 10 years by far. If you watch like the Lower East Side episode of New York, which is about like the late 70s in the Lower East Side where, you know, everything amazing happened musically, then like the Rome episode and the Hong Kong episode, none of them feel the same. All of them feel like, let's make this idea amazing. They're like songs. They're like records. All of his output is just so great. So from the voiceover is always different and it's always in his voice. But his voice is humble and it's taking it in and he's got a perspective and he acknowledges it. But he's just kind of just bowed over by all this beauty. And I watched something recently with him where he's like, I used to think people were really cynical, but then I traveled and I found that most of us are good people, just doing our best with what we have. And I think going to places like the Middle East and all these places that a lot of Americans don't have passports. A lot of the world doesn't have a passport. And look, I haven't been to the Middle East. I'm a woman. I can't go, not my own. But he brought this humanity of these people in these places to the world in a way that humanizes things like no one else would. You know, when we live in a world where a lot of world leaders want to dehumanize people fucking escaping war-torn countries. They want to dehumanize people who are just trying to live their life just like you. And it's some fucking bullshit government, they're waging war. And they treat them like animals. And I think when he goes in there and breaks bread with these people that have been like caricatured as these evil people, like he did such a service for humanity, you know, like, and just introducing you to different filmmakers and different ways to do it. And, you know, you watch the behind the scenes thing with all his crew and they're like, he wasn't easy, but fuck, we made amazing shit. It wasn't always fun, but fuck, they didn't say fuck, we made amazing shit, but that was the gist of it. Now, a couple of years ago, I can't remember the exact date off the top of my head right now, but they found him, he'd killed himself, and he was always really open. I don't know how open he's been about mental health or mental illness, or I haven't seen a lot of it. There's every chance he has spoken about it, not in every interview. I think he spoke about drugs and stuff a lot more openly, I think, but, and that has a lot to do with, I think there are serious problems with the way we let men and their emotions and talking about this kind of stuff. Any of us really. I have mental health issues and I don't feel that comfortable. You know, I've got that whole toughen up. I've hung out with men my whole life. And when I want to like be honest about that kind of stuff, I just go in my head, toughen up, Christina. You know, like, and that's that's hanging out with men for too long. You kind of go, oh my God, yeah, like fucking, what are you, a pussy? And it's like, first of all, pussies are very powerful. But that kind of mentality, I think, would be even more pronounced in the older generation. And look, I was just fucking heartbroken because this, you know, he's living the dream. He's like, you know, he toured 200 days a year. He toured like a fucking rock star, man. That guy worked and he put so much heart and love into everything. Like, oh my God, watching him meet with Iggy Pop is like one of my favorite moments in television history, because he's so just humbled and in love, and just he's a 14-year-old boy again. And I just, when I heard about it, I was just like, fuck, I wish I could be in that fucking hotel room and just go, dude, don't do it. Because I don't want to say all of us, I've certainly had suicidal moments or whatever, but I always think I would ruin my mother's life forever. I would ruin everyone who loves me life forever. It would stick with them. I couldn't do it. And I wish, it doesn't mean I'm reflecting on them as any, I don't even know, man. Like, what do you even say? Like, what can you do? You know, you can have survivor guilt even when you don't fucking know the person, just that you were touched by their work and you saw this like unbelievable outpouring of grief over this, because he brought so much. And I think, I wish I could have helped, you know, and I wish he could have known how loved he was, because maybe he didn't know the entire world felt like we'd gone with him on all these trips, you know, that his humility and his outlaw values, and he's just a punk rock motherfucker, like totally, dude, like that how special that was and what a gift it was to the world. You know, I wish we could take care of men and I mean men and women, but especially I wish we could teach men how to express their emotions. And I wish that he could have called someone and like, you know, done something. But the same with Hunter S. Thompson, like he left this world in a blaze of flames also. And I have to say, Hunter S. Thompson did, I was fired out of a cannon at his funeral. That was paid for by Johnny Depp, a fact that Anthony Bourdain, I think, would appreciate. I wish we had him for another bazillion decades, but you have to say, like, that guy, I could go on forever. I've gone ape shit on this stuff, and maybe flashing my boobs slightly. But, you know, that dude made a contribution. I just wanted to shout out Anthony Bourdain because he had an enormous effect on me as a writer, as an interviewer, which I haven't even talked about yet, which is fucking crazy. The way he interviewed, it was never about him, but he was an enormous presence. It's like this amazing thing of, they're interviewing him as an interviewer is actually the whole point, which I have not come to until right this second, because that's one of the reasons why he's a big hero of mine, because he was such an exceptional interviewer. But he embodied what I think is the essence of good interviewing, which is the Maya Angelou quote, which is, people forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget the way you made them feel. And I don't think I'm alone in saying that. I will never forget the way Anthony Bourdain's art and his contribution made me feel. Thank you for watching the whole video. It's really great to see you at the end. You came all the way through with me to the end. If you've enjoyed the content today and you'd like to catch more of it forever, make more of it happen, I would very much appreciate you subscribing. Also, there are many more videos here and here.